Hey guys, Daniel Master 87 here, and today I want to do a discussion video because I haven't done one in a long time, and I thought what better subject to broach than the Skull Merchant match that Hens spectated over and commentated over years ago that I still think has lingering implications in the DBD space. It's called something like best survivor team in the world gets held by Skull Merchant for 1 hour or some crap like that. I basically want to debunk what the heck happened in that match because it's not as cut and dry or black and white as people have made it out to seem. And people base their whole balancing philosophy of what the devs should do with this game, especially in regards to 3-genning, gen defense, Skull Merchant, just other types of killer abilities, just based off of what they saw in that freaking match. So it would probably be most effective if you had that match playing in the background as I go through an almost play-by-play of what happened in that match. So Hens starts the video out by saying that Skull Merchant's design flaws allow any player to challenge the best of the best with very little. First of all, you can't claim that because a killer who doesn't even know how to chase, as a lot of people claim tons of killer players don't know how to, they're not even going to get that far into this. They're going to be wiped out in 5 minutes because if you don't know the fundamentals, if you don't know how to chase survivors and know when to detach and map control and things like that, you can't just pick up a killer, use their power, and oh, that's it. So second of all, Team Eternal, which I think is the team that they used to go against this Skull Merchant player, they're not the best of the frickin' best, and you'll realize that by the end of me explaining all the misplays they were doing there in that match, because they are numerous and they are constant. And I'm kind of rambling, so let's just get into it. So this Skull Merchant player is clearly way in over his head. He was talking of cocky, he's talking the big game, and he clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. Skull Merchant, at the end of the day, despite her power, and this is the old version we're talking about too, is an M1 killer. So she could insta down with the old version, but if you were playing smart, especially in a coordinated team like those guys were, you shouldn't have been freaking getting down left and right and being like, oh my god, we can't do anything versus this killer. The main complaint against Skull Merchant is she was too strong against solos, but this match was to kind of try and prove that even the best team in the world, which they aren't, couldn't beat Skull Merchant if they somewhat knew what they were doing, which this killer did, even though he's not that good like he claimed he was. So starting off in the first few minutes of the match, Skull Merchant's setting up their drones. He even sets up a smart one in the basement, which will be super hard to freaking disarm, and whose scanning area actually reaches above ground to that main building gen. So that's super strong for the Skull Merchant, but it never really comes into play later on. I think she replaces it or something. But she sets up her drones on that part of the map, which is going to be her 3-gen that she's going to be holding this whole time. Then she starts going to the other side of the map because she's like, it's fine, my drones aren't scanning anyone there. So she starts going and pressuring the other survivors because she can. Maybe break a pallet here, get a health state there just to slow them down and pressure them. They're clearly gonna get all of those gens over there because those aren't the ones that she's guarding. But we already see, and Hens calls this out, one of the guys, I think the Nia, has freaking potential energy. That basically should have ended this whole thing. They could have done this one or two ways. They could have split the map down the middle, never given the killer the freaking 3-gen to begin with. They could have just done main, and then he'd only have those back two, and then one way freaking far away. But no, they pretty much just play into the killer's hands from the start, just give him a free 3-gen without even trying to stop it. But with potential energy, they should be able to The whole point of that perk is to store up Gen energy. You'll go slower as you're progressing it on whatever one you're on, but you'll be able to burst that Gen progress onto a new Gen, which is especially useful when breaking 3 gens. Especially when you've got Deja Vu, so you're just doing gens faster at base, which the Jake had during this match. And I'll go into more of the specifics. So Skull Merchant spends a ton of time away from their 3 gen at the start. That should have been easy, like you get 50% on the freaking main building gen or something like that, and there's nothing she could have done about it. She can guard it, but you could probably just come around at some point, finish the rest of it off. She doesn't get her 3 gen. But they choose not to do that. They just want to do the gens on the side that she's clearly not going to guard. She has nothing set up at. They're just going to do all those gens for no reason when they could do the other ones that she's clearly going to guard. Once the 3 gen begins, the survivors do what they do for most of this match. They're just giving out free hits, they're wasting time, and I can clearly see a distinct lack of communication. These guys actually are on comms, but until Hens reveals that a few minutes into the video, you basically can't tell because they're playing like uncoordinated solos or something who like know how to chase but not much else. These guys literally had freaking Blast Mine, which if you need a more annoying killer perk that like slows them down when they're trying to kick stuff and regress it, that's your freaking perk. So that's just another perk. They had it. It went off multiple times throughout the match. They should have had this match freaking down, not letting it last an hour like they did. So 10 minutes in, our first time marker I'm going to mention, they decide to start tanking the exposed effect. Like, we're not going to disable the drones, that takes way too much time from our gen tapping and our progress. So we're just going to start getting exposed, and when the killer comes, we're going to run away. And one guy has sprint burst, so he does that very well. Killer's wasting tons of time kicking gens that are at like 1%, 5%. That should have given them a free head start on the other gens, because she can't be in one place. She can only be in one place at a time. She can't be in 3 or 4 places at a time, which there's freaking 4 of them. They need to take advantage of that crap. Adam soon gets exposed and gets downed in the 3 gen. Never should have freaking happened, especially near the freaking start. You just never allow that crap to happen, especially as a so-called comp coordinated team. The survivors actively waited for Skull Merchant to hit their teammate before they started pushing gens, and then they immediately get pushed off, obviously, because you wait till your freaking teammates get hit when the Skull Merchant goes far out and commits to hitting them. Well, you're not going to get much gen progress that way, are you? The whole strategy that they started doing, which is tanking the exposed effect, they just start like not committing to that strategy. I think they start taking the drones out again, which is what they didn't want to do, and doing it again. So they're not as coordinated as they say. 15 minutes in, the team gives 2 really good freaking pallets instantly, one of which didn't have to be thrown at all if the team had been there to body block. I think it was the Atom who gets exposed because of the Skull Merchant's effect, which they were always hovering around that freaking area. Like, for some reason, the guys were just like hovering around main instead of pushing one of the other 2 gens. They could have easily been there to body block that guy, and he wouldn't have had to throw the pallet down. And then the ace, like really soon after, throws like the only freaking pallet that they had near that back gen behind the main. He just gives it away for freaking free, so they can never use that pallet again. The one that the Atom dropped, they can never use again. And quickly, you'll see that they have like 1-2 freaking pallets maybe on that whole side. And I'm not denying that the farm maps after they were changed had very sparse pallets. I'm not denying that. But these guys, knowing that, and they're like the best team in the world supposedly, they just throw pallets left and right after giving the freaking killer a 3 gen on that side. It just makes no sense. Alternatively, they could have let the guy get insta-downed, saved the pallet, and as the killer is either slugging the guy or picking him up and hook him, they could rush the rest of the djinns. They didn't do that. So 17 minutes in, we hear Eternal talking on their comms for the first time. Not that they hadn't been doing that, it's just Hens didn't show their mics of what they were saying. So the first guy speaking, I'll call him the lead guy because he sounds like he's the only one who knows what the heck he's doing. He sounds exhausted, which is a state of mind and a situation that I've been in plenty of times, just playing Survive with Friends on here. It's something I'm very familiar with. Like, they're my friends and all, but they're just not doing crap efficiently. They sound extremely uncoordinated, like some of the team is just kind of doing their own thing and being inefficient rather than adhering to one strategy. Like that strategy earlier where they're like, we're just going to take the exposed, and then they abandoned it like a minute after. That's the kind of crap I'm talking about. Some of the Eternal team gets kind of emotional like a minute later, starts arguing, oh, the killer's won this already. He just has to hold the djinns, and the same guy, probably their MVP, is like, no, we just need to do the djinns. He sounds exhausted and in disbelief that they're making it this freaking hard on themselves, like they don't know what they're doing. Because he's surrounded by idiots is what that is, and I've been in that situation many times. He's like, no, he won't commit to you, just do the djinns. So when one guy gets hit, one goes to heal him, the other two should be pushing djinns or calling out the killer's location. That's how the match should be playing out right now, and it just isn't because they don't know what they're doing. It never occurred to them really to, especially with that back djinn, to just hide nearby rather than pre-running. It's not a guaranteed success, and it's potentially a very risky play, but it's an unexpected option that they could take to kind of make her think, oh, they ran away, and then in the moment she walks away, they're right there back on the djinn. They could have done that at any point, and they never did. If you do not have Sprint Burst, do not freaking get exposed at that back djinn. Send one back there occasionally, while mostly focusing on main and cornfield djinn, or send one to main while others attack the other two, which are the furthest apart. But same strategy either way, they just weren't doing it. 20 minutes in, we see Eternal's like first really good play. Ace becomes exposed and he's disarming a drone completely caught off guard because Skull Merchant's using Oblivious add-ons, or just the one. And Adam comes in for the block. Really solid play by them. You may be wondering at this point, where is potential energy? They have it, why aren't they using it? That djinn that, I think it's the cornfield one that they start doubling up on, maybe later on, they should be like getting a ton of progress from that and then pushing the main djinn or pushing the back djinn, or vice versa. Just use the perk, store up djinn progress, and then put it onto one, and she can't really do anything. That's what you should be going for, and they weren't doing it. So Hens says this is dependent on everyone hitting skill checks. As long as they hit skill checks, they're good. Well, you don't say. 22 minutes in, we finally have a djinn at 50%, 2 pistons going. The end of the match should come very soon after this, because once that djinn has that much progress on it, it's kind of a runaway djinn. Skull Merchant's paranoid about defending that one. They can't really significantly regress it, even with overcharge or whatever they were using to get it down, unless they're overly hanging around it, which opens up the other two djinns to be worked on. You get what I mean? So they started this strat earlier, but 2 people start pushing the corn djinn while the other 2 do the other djinns. That's finally a freaking good move that they should have been doing from the start. 23 minutes in, Skull Merchant commits to an insta-down through the corn. At that point, the team should be freaking rushing those djinns. Like the killer walks all the way to get a down on this guy, y'all should be freaking rushing. But what do we see whenever the camera switches back to them? They're not rushing the Jins. Instead, Adam is just running back from freaking Hill like he barely understands what's up when the Skull Merchant committed to that long of a freaking chase. Why are you just running back from Hill? Like, why? You should be on main or something else. And for some reason, he has an unused toolbox. It may or may not be a smart idea to save it. You could do it, like, go all in on that Jin that they had at like 50, right? Or they could save it till the very end, till they're sure that, like, we need to save this toolbox till this moment, and then when their moment of glory arrives, go, 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 use it, use it. It's just weighing pros and cons there. And Jake failed to get a flashlight save on the Nia that went down that I was talking about just a minute ago. He was exposed, so it was risky to just run in front of Skull Merchant and get that free flashlight save. So pro and con there. After Nia quickly gets unhooked when the Skull Merchant goes back to the Jins, because it's her 3 Jin, Nia's going to stay injured pretty much for the rest of the game with resilience and dead hard, which is smart. 24 minutes, Ace gets insta-down because Adam failed a body block for some reason. They're going around a stack of hay bales. Instead of doing like a simple play like just me change direction and then you block for me, the Ace just starts doing too much unpredictable stuff, so even though they're on comms, he gets insta-down because the Adam couldn't follow and body block him the way he was freaking moving there, if you see that. Being a freaking comp team who's familiar with each other's playstyles and then they do call-outs and stuff like that, they should have been like a well-oiled machine, but they weren't coordinated at all there. So the killer slugs the guy that he insta-downs, allowing them to pressure the Jin, but then she gets blast mine when she kicks it, which gives a free pickup on Ace, plenty of time to do that, which is probably one of the few big misplays and wastes of time on her end. Nia dead hard tanks for an exposed teammate, which is a really good play. We're now at 26 minutes in. Skull Merchant just goes between 2 Jins because they stopped pushing the main for some reason. Soon after, 3 people are injured. They might as well stay that way for the rest of the match for efficiency's sake. And then when the one guy gets exposed or whatnot, they just body block him if all else fails, so that they don't give the killer that much value in insta-downing a guy. 27 minutes in. Jake leads the killer away in a comp corner play because he's exposed and was working on that cornfield Jin again, and the killer ends up committing to him super hard, which gives a big opportunity for them to get some real Jin progress on the other Jins. That doesn't really happen, and again, where's potential energy? They should have been saving up that progress this whole time to put on 1 Jin and overcoming that 3 Jin. And Nia's the one who has it, so what is she doing? I don't really know. But anyway, they have to get off their Jin now to go pick up that slug Jake. 28 minutes in, Nia gets hit at a locker instead of a forced locker grab because her movement was inefficient. Like, she clearly could have gone in a straight line and got to that locker. She decided to, like, hug right against a bunch of hay bales, and then same thing on the left side, and that just, like, killed her movement efficiency. And then that was right after the freaking Jake play, so now they've just wasted, like, crap tons of time. That is a huge, like, sabotaging play to the team. And then Adam's just freaking running around instead of helping reset and push Jins. I don't know what he's doing. Nia successfully gets locker grabbed soon after, so that's the second hook that she gets, but she actually wasted the killer's time successfully because she jumps in a locker. The killer doesn't want to let her do that for freaking free, so she commits to getting a hook on her because she's already hooked her once. The cornfield Jin throughout all of that for some reason wasn't even tapped. It's still freaking going down because you see the sparks. 31 minutes. They start pushing the main Jin again. Don't know why they ever stopped. But they should have been doing that the whole time, forcing the killer to be in 3 places at once instead of just 2. Because if she just goes between cornfield gen and that back gen, which is super unsafe to do, it's super freaking easy for her to manage. They keep missing all these freaking oppression skill checks that the killer's putting out. Like, y'all are on PC clearly. It's way easier to hit skill checks on there, and you're a comp team. You should be hitting these freaking skill checks, not missing them all the time, because that just creates more bad regression that y'all then need to freaking undo to continue progressing the match. Because remember, there's no gen block mechanic at this point in the game. They can just be kicked forever, and they're not exploiting that. Again, where's potential energy? Blast Mine makes an appearance, which slows her down a bunch, but where's the potential energy to make up for all that slowdown she's suffering? 35 minutes, Adam ends up taking an insta-down for Nia because she's now dead on hook. She's the weak link. Bad situation for them. I don't blame them having to make such a bad play there. But a healthy guy never should have had to freaking do that. Adam should have been the designated healthy guy, and then one of the other two got down for her. That would have been a way better play. Adam gets slugged because of that. Quickly gets picked up, and Ace comp corners right after, which should give them plenty of time to do a bunch of gen progress. 37 minutes, Jake successfully jumps in a locker, forcing her to grab him out. Or no, she doesn't do that. He actually gets left up, so that is a completely time-wasting free play, because the Skull Merchant now has to go back and pressure her gens. But I think in her mind at the time, she realizes she can take those far chases like that because the team does not punish her with huge gen progress whenever she leaves that 3 gen. She can, like, far commit to Jake or whatever player she's after, down them, or face an unfortunate locker tech right there, and she's not going to lose the whole freaking game for it. That's what she's realized here. 38 minutes, they keep pushing 2 gens again instead of 1 guy at main. Like, you should always have 1 guy there pushing that, man. Adam gets down and instantly repicked up. Nobody was on gens during all of that. I don't know why. At 40 minutes, Ace gets downed near the edge. Not sure where the callouts were. He never should have been taken by surprise like that. They should have told him where she was. And then as a result, they should have been rushing those gens, because the Skull Merchant, again, committed to downing a guy who was basically running comp corner. But there was no significant gen progress done. Somehow, instead, all they allowed was cornfield gen to regress to 1 piston. That's the gen they had at like 50 from the freaking start. I don't know how they keep letting it go down like nothing. At 45 minutes, Nia gets saved again because she was about to go down. She's dead on hook. They can't let her go down because then it's a 3v1, and in a Skull Merchant 3-gen situation where they're all freaking right there, you don't want to have that crap happen. It should have been someone else. It's a good play that they saved her again, but she never should have been pushing main. It should have been someone else. Because that's the gen that they were overextending on a whole bunch, and she kept catching them out there. While Adam is being slugged, Jake decides he wants to be slugged too, and if you freaking see it, he intentionally runs closer to the 3 gen instead of doing comp corner like he was earlier. I don't get that freaking all. At all. Hen says Skull Merchant can do whatever she wants right now. There's no pressure on anyone. And whose fault is that? All gens on nothing for some reason at this point, except for the back gen that is at 1 piston. I don't know how they let it get to this situation, but they somehow have. We finally get to hear again the chaos that is Eternal's comms. The lead guy is silent. If I was him, I'd be freaking seething at this point, because he's surrounded by idiots. They're not playing well, and he probably accepts losing at this point. That's why he's not saying anything. The rest of his guys get excited about Blast Mine proc, but because there's only one person on gens and one latecomer, the Nia, barely getting back to main, who the killer should have committed to, and they didn't in that moment, they barely got any gen progress as a result. Oppression skill check gets missed on main again. I don't know why it's so freaking hard for them to hit it. They could clearly hit their brand new part skill checks, which they didn't have that match, but I'm just saying in general, when people hit those, it's like twice the freaking size, so I don't get it. 47 minutes in, the first call-outs coordination I've heard from their comms the whole freaking match. To be fair, mostly because we can't hear them the whole match. But they clearly didn't talk like that earlier, right? They were just like, with only one guy kind of giving them directions. They were full of themselves at the start. They weren't freaking ready for this because they thought this guy was talking a big game and wasn't going to give them a challenge. The biggest challenge is them freaking selves and not playing well, but anyway. 48 minutes in, they get 3 gens to 50%. This should be the turning point of the freaking match where they're like winning any minute now, and it just does not happen. And what I want you to kind of understand is that if they got 3 gens to 50% now, why couldn't it have happened the whole freaking time? Why did they wait till after all this time to start doing that? You know? The survivors are either that incompetent or they've been screwing around to make a show of this match to like push the narrative that, oh, Skull Merchant can hold 3 gens for so long it's unfair, so we're just not going to play serious. The Skull Merchant may have been in on it if that was the freaking case of all this. And I cite her random confusion and like random loss of control near the end, because she was going between 2 gens and 3 gens all fine, and then you see in her movement she starts getting decisive, like, oh, I'm at main gen, oh, but I don't want to kick it, I'm going to the cornfield, but I'll take a step back. Like, she doesn't know what she's doing. Her brain gets fried or something, which she's never shown before this point. I don't understand that sudden loss of train of thought. At 50 minutes in, can't believe we're at this point, every time Skull Merchant isn't at a gen, the survivors are on it. They could have done this the whole time. I have to reiterate that. 52 minutes, the final gen gets done. The 1 hour server limit is almost freaking there. What changed to make this happen, to get them into that position? I don't know. It was a freaking blur, because all their mistakes they've made so far, it doesn't make any sense how they're suddenly just that much more efficient. Survivors like turn their brains on at different points. I've played against Skull Merchant at different times where it's like, hey, we're getting held on these gens for a really long time. Oh, what? Me and this one other teammate just jump on this gen and finish it, and it's the last gen and we win. We could have done that the whole time. Stuff like that. It's suspicious that they happened to overcome the situation they were in near the server close time. I guess their egos were like, we want to win, but we still want to make a show of this match and do a catchy thumbnail with hens of like the 1 hour mark, the Skull Merchant got them there, that's how long she freaking held it. Whereas before it was presented like they couldn't do anything, you know, near the beginning where they're getting a little bit of progress on a gen, kicks it, goes all the way down, rinse and repeat. Everything that happens after this is basically moot point because they've conquered the 3 gen, they can just go to the exits and get out. But here's some final little things I have to say from what I see. The moment the gens get done, the killer's basically hopeless to get anything else. He can commit to the Nia, who's dead on hook, to get a quick kill and then maybe secure another down and get a draw through that. Spoiler alert, the killer doesn't get that. But the killer in that situation is basically hopeless to get anything. So for all the people saying like, the match is far from over whenever the killer loses 5 gens, no, it's basically over, because you can just coordinate and get a free save, which they'll do in a minute. 54 minutes, Adam gets hooked. All they have to do, again, is heal up, 99 the gates, or open them, get a free save, You know, one guy takes a hit during the killer's attack cooldown, the other guy saves for free. All body block each other and get out, and that's what they do. They take themselves all the way to the gates. They teabag, which is clearly the kind of lack of sportsmanship that even comp survivor teams will sink to. And we get to see the post-match results screen, all the stuff that the survivors brought, all the stuff that the killer had brought. Clearly, at least one of the survivors for sure took this match as a joke, because they brought a freaking firecracker instead of something that was useful and could have been used over and over again. They took this match for a joke because of their incompetent gameplay. They brought freaking Circle of Healing, the Atom did, but they never used it. That is just insane. Like, how much freaking faster they could have reset and got back on those gens all that time. They never put the freaking boon down. Like, it just slipped their mind, or I don't understand how you could throw away an advantage that freaking large. It makes no sense. Ace actually brought Deliverance, but to my knowledge, he never unhooked anyone, not even the Nia, who had been hooked twice. That's just throwing away a free advantage. I know the killer never slugged the guy, but just in case... No, she did slug the guy. I'm tripping over my words. The Skull Merchant slugged him all the time. He didn't know that he was going to be slugged all the time instead of hooked, but he just didn't give himself that option by unhooking. With Potential Energy on Nia and Deja Vu Prove Thyself on Jake, those gens easily should have been going faster. Like, way faster, not taking a freaking hour to be done. Adam seemed to be going for a kind of gimmicky, built-to-last stakeout thing instead of choosing actual good perks. Don't know if they had any say in what the map was, if they chose it, or if it was randomized. If it was randomized, then very lucky for the freaking killer, because there was no elevation or anything. In any event, Jake shouldn't have had balance because it's way too map dependent. Like, there's versions of maps where even if you get hills or harvesters and stuff you could fall from in the right places, there's no guarantee that the Skull Merchant, who's clearly going to be 3-genning on that map, is going to be, you know, letting you get to those places before she downs you. But any other map, like freaking Yamaoka, the Temple, anything like that, it would have been way harder of a match for Skull Merchant. I don't think she could have won because he would have gotten that balance value, even though it was a bad perk pick from him. Some conclusions. Skull Merchant is bad design. I'm not denying that. It should have been Predator, which I think was the original plan, hence the long claw weapon that she's holding, and the drones and all that, because they did have drones in Predators with Adrian Brody, which is a really good movie. Team Eternal are either complete frauds or they're uncoordinated as crap, at least in that match. Or they were playing the match for laughs, as I repeated a few times now. They made so many mistakes, it's not even freaking funny. And they won near the end like it was nothing, when before it seemed like they couldn't do anything. Like, y'all rushed all 3 gens really fast near the end. Why couldn't y'all have done that 40 minutes freaking earlier? They could have done it at any time. The existence of Skull Merchant doesn't enable this kind of scenario to happen, because again, without a good killer player at the helm, no one comes close to this. The solution to 3 gens isn't adding a gen blocking mechanic, which we have now, because that crap is brain dead and it stops the killer from doing their objective, which is slowing the gens and killing the survivors. You freaking take away a base mechanic that killer's supposed to have, which is kicking the gens. You just let the survivors not even have to do their jobs. The freaking gens block themselves. They do the survivor's job for them, instead of pressuring the gen and undoing the regression. The real solution to 3 gens should have been fixing freaking Skull Merchant, or spacing the gens out just a little more than they were. Just a little bit. Because you need to do changes incrementally, not go freaking crazy like the devs always seem to do. And I think there's a way they could have spaced out gens without necessarily making the maps bigger, because people were crying, oh, the maps are too small now, the killer can just 3-gen anytime or whatever. And it's like, dude, rush the gens, especially with the gen blocker thing now, and you don't even have to freaking do it. But I'm talking about an alternative to the gen blocker, so I guess I could leave that out of the conversation. I believe there's a way that you could make gens spaced out more without getting the map bigger. Like, you could allow gens to spawn closer to the edge or something like that, but we don't need a repeat of old Dead by Daylight with like old Ormond and things like that, where gens were just like a million miles away because the maps were so freaking big. But because the devs decided to bring in that freaking anti 3-gen thing where the gens just block themselves after 8 kicks, all killers now have to pay for that change, not just Skull Merchant. And it was brought on by freaking propaganda pieces like this match that Hens spectated and commentated over, which was clearly dramatized for community outrage, prompting a response from the devs. Shout out to the lead guy on Eternal, whatever his name is, or that's just the guy. I call him the lead guy. He was the only one giving like useful call-outs and telling him just do the gens. He's the only one who seemed to take this match with any amount of seriousness, and he needs a better team who doesn't get held by an M1 freaking killer for almost an hour. 4 of me, as scrubby as I am, could have beaten this team easily. And the fact is, for all their misplays and giving the Skull Merchant stuff for free, they still won this match in the end. Like, you realize that, right? They had to have known this cocky Skull Merchant kid was going for a 3-gen from the start, instead of simply splitting the map at the start, which they easily could have done because of potential energy burst progression and deja vu, prove thyself, all that. They decided to make things as hard as humanly possible on themselves, give the Skull Merchant a free 3-gen without even trying to avoid it, and they still won this match. Like, you see what I'm getting at? The message taken from this match, Hens, is that survivors, or at least survive with friends, are overpowered, not the killer, or Skull Merchant, or 3-genning. 3-genning is the killer's response to gen rush and impossible objective races. You know, I've got 2 hooks on survivors and they've done 3 gens. How the heck am I supposed to ever catch up? And that's why killers were doing it. They had to take shortcuts like tunneling, like 2-hooking, like 3-genning, in order to circumvent how unfair the game is at base. And no hate for Hens or Aughts as people, or any of these other content creators out there, but they use their wholesomeness as a shield against valid criticism against their freaking anti-killer ideas. No, the idea that if you just play well enough, you can beat any team is obviously falsifiable and was definitely not true here. But I'm trailing off. Hopefully this video once and for all debunks the best survivor team in world held by Skull Merchant for an hour. This is Daniel Master 87 signing out.